weeks or?
8th of June.
8th of June. The Prime Minister of Great Britain and Northern Ireland, Theresa May, called a snap election. Now what's that? That means you'll vote in 6 weeks. It'd be refreshing for you from the States, you know? A snap election. So you've no time to think, you know? Whereas you get too much time to think, I think, the campaigns. But so that's taking place right now in Northern Ireland. You'll see the election posters up. But even with all the debate about Brexit and all this, most of the people in Northern Ireland will still vote along those lines of unionist or nationalist political lines. Whether you're loyal to Westminster, to the Union flag, or have some allegiance to the Republic of Ireland. So 400 years later, but thank God it's all talk and politics right now, and peace is firmly rooted in Northern Ireland. It's excellent. And here now, just to finish, here's where the forts came in. Have any of you been to Charles Fort yet?
Yes.
It's a must, I'm sure you'd agree, Phil. The views from Charles Fort are breathtaking.
Yeah.
This fort here has a panoramic view of the entire Chart and the harbour, all the way out as far as the old head of Kinsale, up the river and in towards the town itself. And these forts were built, you see two forts, James Fort on the peninsula here, and Charles Fort across. They were built by the English after the Battle of Kinsale, simply to ensure that no enemy of England could do this again. Spanish, French or Dutch. And they were named after King James I, King Charles II of England. And in behind the forts, the town of Kinsale became a garrison town. So we had thousands of English soldiers based here right up till 1922, Irish independence. Kinsale became militarised and you could say more and more anglicised. Obviously, a lot of the families of the soldiers through those centuries fell in love with Kinsale. Why wouldn't they? And settled in there. So that's why we have so much English architecture in the town. A lot of Georgian buildings, bay windows, slate frontage you'll see all around us here. That came from Cornwall, that tradition, to us. And a lot of the surnames English, like Acton, Arnott, Ruddock and Good. A lot of common surnames in Kinsale today. The language became more and more English. At the time of the Battle of Kinsale, Queen Elizabeth was surrounded by Gaelic, the Scottish-speaking Gaelic, and less than 10,000 people in Ireland back then speaking English daily in the home. So it's far from a minority language. In fact, Queen Elizabeth is famous as the first person to publish a printed book in the Irish language in Ireland. It was a translation of an Anglican prayer into Irish. And she learned a couple of focal, we would say a couple of words of Irish. So, it was a big swing and also a big swing in power. Some see the Battle of Kinsale as a clash between two methods of government, tribal and hierarchical. They couldn't survive side by side. So much stronger English rule in Ireland happened after the battle. And I mentioned the religious breakdown of Kinsale. The town centre today is still 50-50 Protestant Catholic in Kinsale. Whereas the Republic of Ireland, in our last census, surprised us actually 82% Roman Catholic. A surprise result because there was a protest vote of sorts. Over 10% in the census declared no religion. But most Irish people who, even if they don't go to Mass, they take in a religion, because there's a big cultural difference between a Catholic atheist and a Protestant atheist in Ireland because of where they came from. There's no escape in religion, and in fact, when you go to Northern Ireland, since you're going there, Phil, in Northern Ireland, a friend of mine is a tour guide in Derry, and he often tells his groups about, rightly so in Northern Ireland, there are strict anti-discrimination employment laws, especially for government roles. So when you apply for a government job, you have to declare your religion. And the government have to employ, especially the police force, 50-50 from both communities, Catholic, Protestant. Wow. So when you fill in the form, there's a kind of, it's not meant to be amusing, but it's quite amusing because you come to the section about religion, you have to declare, are you Catholic or Protestant? And you might say, if you're atheist, no, there's no such box. Because the next two boxes ask you these unusual questions. Only in Ireland, would you be perceived as Protestant or would you be perceived as See, it's all down to the tweed shop and the jewellery, the accent, the surname and all that. There's no escape from religion. And there you go. So just to summarise all that, the Battle of Kinsale had huge ripple effects in Northern Ireland and anglicised and militarised the town and harbour here. And I'm going to finish now with ideas for yourselves. You might be heading towards lunchtime. Why not consider a light lunch on Main Street that we just walked down to some lovely cafes? Or are any of you considering walking to Charles Fort? It's a wonderful coastal walk, 1.5 miles out the other side of the harbour. Half of the walk is pedestrianised with no cars and a little footpath along the way. So it's really nice and charming that way. If you're walking to the fort, why not walk up an appetite and lunch at the Bullman Bar just before the fort? Or you could drive up and lunch there as well. I know a lot of you are disciples of Rick Steves, and it's his favourite pub in Kinsale because it's the only pub in Kinsale right by the shoreline. And particularly on a Sunday now with a lot of sailors out, you can sit there with a... I remember when I was on his radio show first time, he talked about the Bullman and he said, I remember sitting there with a bowl of mussels and a pint of Murphy's and hearing the canvas in the sails slap as they sail by and looking up at Charles Fort and feeling the spray, the Atlantic spray in my face. I was wondering, what's he going on about, you know? But then when I listened back, I realised what he was doing, because on radio I've only got sound. So he was painting a sensory picture. I learned a lot from him from that. You know, he was detailing all the senses. And so you could eat in the Bullman before the fort, or there's a little tea room, a charming tea room in the fort itself, with the best view of any tea room I know of, overlooking the entire harbour. What some people do is walk out, get a taxi back, or vice versa. I'd encourage you to have a car-free day in Kinsale if you're staying tonight. Now, if you're leaving in the early afternoon, a lot of you are, drive out that way. So drive out via the fort and take in the breathtaking views. Because people say if you come to Kinsale town and don't see the views of the outer harbour, it's like going to Niagara and missing the falls. You'll miss the big picture. And for us now, I just want to finish by offering you the chance, if you want to take the story of Kinsale home with you, in written form, we have an essay here of Kinsale. My colleague Don Hurley started this tour 25 years ago, and always visitors were asking, can you write down the story, or record it somehow. Phil has recorded it for me there. He finally wrote down an essay all about the spice wars, the armadas, the battle, and the ripple effects going forward. We worked for a long time on the title, and eventually we settled on this, Kinsale in the Winds of Change. Because if we didn't have this trade wind, this prevailing wind, it'd be a lot colder. We wouldn't have the forts and a lot of the history. And I wouldn't have this job. So I'm grateful to the wind. If you have a business card, if you could jot down your email on a scrap of paper, I'll send you this essay for free. And also I'll send you in that email a link to a 3-minute movie myself and a local filmmaker put together of aerial footage, a slow sweep over the medieval town, over the inner harbour and ending at Charles Fort. 3 minutes long. That was the attention span of people online, the maximum attention. And by the way, if you do share your email with me, I promise you one email and one email only. No marketing or joke of the week. You put up with my sense of humour a lot this morning now. And I want to finish though by thanking you. Number one, for coming to Kinsale. Secondly, for joining the tour. And for all your interesting questions and connections we made along the way. I often sort of joke to Irish Americans saying welcome home. And it's nice to literally say to Phil, welcome home. Once a Cork man, always a Cork man. It's in the blood, you know. And if any of you do, I'll just finish on this, if any of you do a genealogical DNA test in the future, it's becoming more fashionable now. Let's say the result comes out 15% Irish. Don't be disappointed, I'll tell you why. You know John Steinbeck, the famous American writer? He was Scots-Irish, English and German, given his surname. And he came to Ireland, to Derry, like you are, Phil, to reconnect with his roots. When he met the Irish people, understood our character and sense of humour and storytelling and personality, he wrote in his diary, he said, apparently he said, the Irish blood in my veins doesn't dilute down very easily. So if you come out 15% DNA, that's, in terms of personality, 50%. Because it's like mixing whiskey and wine, that's what we say. Anyway, you know? And lastly though, I want to thank you. The teachers amongst you will know what I mean when I say thank you for listening. It's an underrated skill in the modern world. And don't forget, you're all booked in my gondola tour in 20 years' time. So thank you very much. Thanks a lot.